guess looking forward to the weekend.
Yeah.
All right, so today we are going to do a section on midpoints, okay? So make sure we have all our phones away.
Thank you.
So we're gonna do midpoints on a number line as well as midpoints on a coordinate plane. Midpoints are easier in my opinion, especially like if you look on this top line again. The fourth one over is the midpoint formula, the fifth one over is the distance formula, and the midpoint formula is quite a bit easier. So first of all, what is a midpoint? So if you have a segment AB, okay, the midpoint would be the middle point. It would be the point that cuts this in half so that these two pieces would be equal or congruent, like we talked about. When you go to say that these two are equal, if you say it like this, that means their distances or lengths are equal. If you say it like this, and like I said, it should have the bars above it, that's saying this segment is congruent to the other segment. So anytime you have a midpoint, it's going to be halfway between the two endpoints, okay? Now the first thing we're going to learn today is how to find the midpoint on a number line. So if you have your notes out, what I want you guys to write down is this. And then this. So when you guys do the practice quiz and the quiz next week, one of the hardest things and why kids can get some wrong on that is that you have to know how to find distance on a number line, which is where we did those loops. You have to find distance on a coordinate plane, which is where we did Pythagorean theorem or the distance formula. You have to know how to do midpoint on a number line, midpoint on a coordinate plane, and you have to know the difference between those. If the day of the quiz you guys remember and you say, can you just remind us how to do each section? I would talk you through that, okay? And the practice quiz, I should do that too, okay? All right, so here's the deal when you're finding a midpoint. If you had a number line, and let's say A was -2 and B was 8, and I asked you guys to find the midpoint, some people could just do that in their head, but I'm going to show you what works for all the time, and you don't have to do it in your head. You either can use a do you guys have calculators? Do you want to grab them? Right here. Or if you need a graphing one, I have two right here. Did I tell you guys they have some graphing calculators you can check out? Okay. All right. So when you go to do this problem, you can either go on your calculator and go parenthesis -2 plus 8 parenthesis, and then just hit divide by 2. That's one way that you can do that. The second way, and the way that I generally do it, is I would use this method and I'd hit enter after I add the two numbers. So I would go -2 plus 8, and then I'd hit enter on my calculator. And then I would hit divide by 2. So if I look at my calculator, I try not to use parentheses if I can get away with it. So I would go -2 plus 8, enter, and then just hit divide by 2. Whoops. And did you guys all get 3? Okay. If you would rather do the parentheses, that's absolutely fine. You can go parenthesis, -2 plus 8, parenthesis, divide by 2. So either way is correct. However, the reason I'm being so specific about this, if you just went to your calculator and you typed in -2 plus 8 divided by 2, and you didn't use parentheses and you didn't hit enter, your calculator's gonna do order of operations, and it's gonna only divide the 8 by 2. It's not gonna add them together and then divide by 2. So that's why we can't do it that way, okay? So let's come down here, and the first thing they're asking us for is the midpoint between B and D. Now this one you guys can do just by looking. What would the middle point between 0 and 18 be? 9, right? 18 divided by 2 is 9. The halfway point would be 9. So if you have one like that you can just do in your head, certainly do that, okay? The next one is A and C. So again, if you're doing your parentheses, you'd go parentheses, -12 plus C is 6, parenthesis, divided by 2. And I don't want you to just type that into your calculator. I also want you to write it out like that. Or you could do -12 plus 6, enter, and then divide by 2. Do you get a -3 when you do that?
Yeah.
Okay. So, -3 is your answer. Now, we're gonna do it between A and D. A is -12, D is 18, okay? So, I would go -12 plus 18 in parentheses divided by 2, or, bless you, I'd go -12 plus 18, enter, divided by 2. Okay, so -12 plus 18 would be 6. 6 divided by 2, did you guys get 3?
Yep.
Okay. Everybody understand how to do that? Okay. So now what I'm gonna have you guys copy down on your sheet is this, and I want you to write on coordinate plane. And when you write the formula out, either put parentheses around this, if that's what you do, or put enter after them, if that's what you do. So either way would work, okay? So this way, or if you do parentheses, write it like this. And then you might want to write off to the side that you're going to write your answer as an ordered pair. So that's our second formula that we're doing. Now really what we're doing in this formula is two problems like we did on the number line. With the number line, we only had x's. With a coordinate plane, we have x's and y's. So we end up adding our x's together in parentheses or hit enter and divide by 2. We add our y's together in parentheses or enter and divide by 2. And when you write your answer is going to be an ordered pair. Okay? Did everybody get this? Okay. So let's go back and let's try this. Okay? So like I said with these, it's kind of like two problems like we did with the order or the number line. So what you're gonna do is add your two x's together, and it doesn't matter what order you add them in. So I'm gonna go -6 plus 1 over 2, and then comma, because this is an ordered pair. Let me grab different notes. And then we would do our y's where we go y1 plus y2 divided by 2. Or y1, yeah, plus y2 divided by 2. Now, when you do this, you're either going to put these in parentheses before you divide by 2, or you're going to hit enter before you divide by 2. Otherwise, you'd get every single one wrong. When you get your answer here, it depends on your calculator. When you guys are using the ones from the brown bin, when you guys typed this in, did it give you -2.5?
Yes.
Okay. If you used a graphing calculator and we did -6 plus 1 enter divided by 2, oh good, that gives you a 2 as a decimal. Then when you do this one, 3 plus 0 is 3, enter divide by 2 is going to be 1.5. Is that what you guys got? Yes.
Goes for the next one, where the 4 is a negative. Is that subtracting?
Yes, or you could think, I would probably think of it as 5 plus a -4 divided by 2.
rather subtracting.
If you want to, that's
Easy
fine.
that way.
Yep. Okay, let's look at this one. So again, we add our two x's together. So we're gonna go 5 plus a -4 all over 2. And this is all one big ordered pair. And then we're gonna do 12 plus 8 all over 2, okay? Now, 5 plus a -4, yes?
Oh, I did not be advanced geometry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, it's over here. Sorry about that. All right. So 5 plus a -4 is 1. 1 divided by 2, did you guys get 0.5? And then 12 plus 8, remember you hit enter or put that in parentheses, that's 20, divided by 2 is 10. So what you guys got for your answers? Okay. Now if we look at C, same thing, this is all one big ordered pair. We're gonna add our two x's together. And we're gonna add our two y's together. -2 plus 1 divided by 2, okay? You either use parentheses or you hit enter before you divide by 2, okay? So you'd go -8 plus 5, which is -3, divided by 2 is -1.5. -2 plus 1 is -1. -1 over 2 is -0.5. Did everybody get that for an answer? Yeah? Do you guys understand that part? Okay. Now, we have a third, we have a third type that we're gonna do. And this is where it gets a little bit confusing. And so like I said, if we have the practice quiz next week on Tuesday, ask me to tell you how to do each of the sections and then on the day of the quiz, because in the past I've forgotten to like say that to kids and then they do the wrong formula for each section and they'll get them all wrong in that section. So make sure you ask me that. So the first thing we're going to talk about today, or here, is what is a segment bisector? Now this is super important. We talk about bisectors for the whole first try. When something bisects something, what I want you to think of is it cuts it in half. It cuts it in 2 equal parts. So if I had a segment, and it looks like they have PQ, and M was my midpoint. Again, what that would mean is these 2 pieces are equal. So what a segment bisector would be is anything that would cut through that segment at its midpoint. It could be a segment, it could be a line. On Monday, we'll talk about rays. It could be a ray. It could even be a plane that cuts through there. So any of those things that go through a segment at its midpoint is called a segment bisector, okay? So this one here, our segment is PQ. I don't know if you can tell this, but these 2 pieces are equal. This is my midpoint. And it has a line that cuts through at the midpoint. It has a segment that does. And like I said, it could even be a ray. And then actually this plane, what they're showing is like if I had a segment like this and my midpoint was here, it would be like if I sliced a plane through that segment at its midpoint. Okay? Now, we're gonna write this down. Let's do this. Let's go back here and write under your notes that you just took about the midpoint. What I want you to do is write these directions down here and then write that for here you use midpoint formula. So if, and then I might add to this a little bit too. Add or use midpoint formula if they give you both endpoints. Okay, so when they give you the 2 endpoints, that's when we're going to use this midpoint formula right here, okay? So when they give you the 2 endpoints and we're looking for the midpoint, we use the midpoint formula. And you could even add so if you're looking for the midpoint, you use midpoint formula. Okay? The second type of question you're gonna have where you have 2 points, each with an X and a Y, is this next thing that we're gonna do right here. And what they're gonna say is find the coordinates of the missing endpoint. And what I'm gonna have you guys do is copy these directions down. And I'm gonna say, use shortcut way when looking for missing endpoint. So we're going to use the shortcut way when looking for the missing endpoint. And I would write this in your actual note sheet, like the handwritten notes. No, on the notebook paper. Yeah. Okay, did I give you guys enough time? All right, so how we do these problems is we're gonna actually draw out what we're given. And in this problem, it says B is the midpoint of AC. What that means is A's here, C's here, and B is here, okay? And B is the midpoint, so that means these two are equal, and they're gonna give us either A or C, and they're gonna give us B. So this one's different. In the previous set, they gave us the 2 endpoints, we wanted the middle. In this one, what they're telling us here is that A is -8, 6, B is -5, 10, and we want to find this. So when you're looking for a missing endpoint, that's when you do this shortcut way. Now, here is how you do this. Okay, what you do is you start at the one endpoint you're given, and you go from this x coordinate to that x coordinate. And you think, how do you get from a -8 to -5 by either adding a number or subtracting a number? You add, because -8 is less than -5, so you'd add how many?
Good.
You'd add just 3. Okay, so when you're going from a -8 to a -5, kind of think like of a number line. If you're at -8 and you're going to -5, you have -7 and -6 in between. So if I start here, I'm going up 1, 2, 3. So that's adding 3. If I went the other way, I'd be subtracting. Okay? Now, because I added 3 here, I have to add 3 here also. So what I would do is I'd take -5 plus 3. If you're not good at that, go to your calculator. Well, -5 plus 3 is -2. Okay? Then what we're gonna do is we're gonna go from 6 to 10. That one's easier, right? Don't we
14.
just add 4, right? And then if we add 4 again, 10 plus 4 is 14. This is our answer then. So when you're looking for one of the endpoints, that's when you use the shortcut way. Now again, in the directions, it said that B is the midpoint between A and C. In this one, B is -1, 2. C is 3, -5. And we need to find A. Now, you always start at the end point, okay? And you start at your X and you think if I'm at 3, I'm going down to -1, I'm going backwards to -1, so that means I have to subtract. How much do I have to subtract to get from 3 to a -1?
Plus 2.
I'd go back 1. Oh, wait, these are positive. What am I doing? Sorry. I'd go from 3 to 2, that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Do you guys get that? I'm going back 4 to get from a positive 3 to a -1.
How do you put that in your calculator?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if you can. Because
Oh wait, never mind.
You could subtract them. You could go 3 minus a -1, but then you'd still be off the sign. You know, like this one's negative. If you went 3 minus a -1, it would give you 4.
So just
Yep.
flip.
Yes.
Can I use the number?
Yep.
-1, -1, -1
Oh, yeah.
What?
Let me see if that works this way. Yeah, that works.
To do what?
So what he's saying is if you typed in this minus that, it would give you that. And if you typed in this minus a -5, it would give you a positive 7. Do you guys get that? Yeah, that works. I've taught this for so long and I've never done it like that. I usually just have kids think of it in their head. So how do you get from a -5 over to a positive 2? You're going up, so you have to add
7.
plus 7. Very good. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is take that 2 and I'm going to add 7. 2 plus 7 is 9. Now I never finished this one, sorry about that. We subtracted 4 here, so we'd subtract 4 here. What's -1 subtract 4?
-5.
-5. And then this right here is your answer. Does that kind of make sense? Okay. So now let's go to this one, and again, the same directions on this one. B is the midpoint between A and C. So B is your 1, 3. C is 6, -2. And we're looking for this. Okay? So if we do it the way that I've been showing, you would think 6, what would I do to 6 to get to 1? Do I add or subtract? I would have to subtract how much? 5. And then if you did it the other way, if you went 1 minus 6, that would give you -5. Okay? Then you have to do a -5 again here. So you'd go 1 minus 5. What's 1 minus 5? -4. Yep. And you can type that in your calculator if that's hard for you. Just go 1 minus 5, subtract 5, and you get -4. Okay? Now, if we go from -2 to a +3, -2 to a +3, I'm going up, so I'm gonna add. How much do I have from -2 to a +3? 5. Very good. So I'm gonna add 5 because I'm going up, okay? Then here, I'm gonna add 5, and 3 plus 5 is 8. Okay? All right, now we have the last page. So this one is kind of separate from what we've been doing. But this says, find the measure of PQ if Q is the midpoint of PR. Q is the midpoint of QR. Now, do you guys remember doing problems like a day or two ago? Actually, was it just, yeah, a day or two ago, where we did this plus this equals the whole thing, right? We can't do this one this way because we know this distance and this distance, but we don't know the whole distance. We only know 2 of those 3 things. They both have a variable, so we can't do that one this way. So why we can do this one differently is because in this one, we have a midpoint, okay? What does it mean for it to be a midpoint? It's exactly in the middle. And what do you think these 2 things mean? They are, the word is congruent, but it also means they're equal, okay? If they're equal, do you guys get that I could go 9y minus 2 equals 14 plus 5y. So when it's a midpoint and you're given the 2 parts, you just set them equal to each other because that's what a midpoint means. So now what I'm going to do is bring my 5y over by subtracting 5y. 9y minus 5y is 4y, and then I have minus 2 equals 14. Add 2, and I get 4y is 16. Are you guys all pretty good about solving equations like this? Everybody kind of get that? Okay. Then we're going to divide by 4, and y is 4. But if you remember what I told you guys earlier this week, sometimes in geometry you're not just finding the variable, you're finding a measure also. And what they want is the distance from P to Q, okay? So this would be a question on the test where I'd probably have a blank where you just tell me what x or what y is. So one of your answers would be y equals 4. And then there'd be another blank where I'd say, what is PQ? So then PQ is this 9y minus 2. And I would take that y and I'd put it in here. So I'd go 9 times 4 minus 2, which is 36, minus 2, which is 34. So again, on something like this, I would want to see your algebra that I have in pink. If you just substituted that 4 back in and didn't show me this work, I'd be okay with that. But you have to show that work, okay? So now we have one more. This says, find the value of x if C is the midpoint of AB. So C is in the middle of A and B. Now they say from A to C right here is 4x plus 5. And this one's different than the one up above because instead of giving us this distance, they tell us this distance is 78. Because it is the midpoint, that means these two pieces are equal. So it's a little bit different, but can you guys figure out what you would do there?
Would it just be 4x plus 5?
4x
Would
plus
this be
5.
4x plus 5 again? Yes. So do you guys get that? If that's 4x plus 5, this is 4x plus 5. Now do you see what you would do? Could you take this plus this and set it equal to 78? Do you understand that? Now we know both of those, if we add those together, it should equal 78. So I'd go 4x plus 5 plus 4x plus 5 equals 78. Now 4x plus 4x is 8x. 5 plus 5 is 10, and that equals 78. Then I'm going to subtract 10, and I get 8x equals 68. Now this is one where we're going to get a decimal, and then don't think that it's wrong. If you get a really yucky decimal, like 0.29342 or something like that, you did something wrong. But this one would actually give us 8.5. If it's a 0.5 or a 0.25 or a 0.75 or 0.33, then I would think it's right. But if it's a 0.5 or if it's really yucky, then I would think I did something wrong. This one only asked us for x, so that is our answer. Now, when you're doing this today, you have to determine which way am I doing it. If you have questions on that, let me know, okay? It's going to be one of the three types. Look at the directions they give you and the directions in your notes and try to figure out which of the ways you're going to do it. Yeah. Did you think it was hard today? Easier than yesterday? Not as easy as yesterday? Just because there's a lot of different types, you think? Yeah. Still not. Remember, we're not watching movies or playing games, okay?